morning and welcome to another episode of Always Up to Date. So Yahweh, it's another week and here we are again with another episode. And so today we're going to talk about how to reconcile a bank account. So just an introduction of who we are. So my name is Denise and I'm one of the co-owners of Always Bookkeeping. This is my colleague.
My name is Yahweh. I'm also a co-owner of the Always Bookkeeping.
Yeah, there you go. So as you know, we always start with a quote and a statistic. And so the quote today is from Michael Gerber, who's the author of the book called E-Myth. His quote is, "The work we do is a reflection of who we are. If we're sloppy at it, it's because we're sloppy inside. If we're late at it, it's because we're late inside. If we're bored by it, it's because we're bored inside with ourselves, not with the work. The most menial work can be a piece of art when done by an artist. So the job here is not outside of ourselves, but inside of ourselves. How we do our work becomes a mirror of how we are inside." So Yahweh, sometimes we just think bank reconciliations are so easy and we don't have to, like there's nothing to it. But sometimes they can be kind of sloppy or they're just not done correctly and that can cause problems later on your year end. So the statistic that we have is 54% of all businesses have 4 employees or less. So, you start your small business and you might have 4 employees or less. Lots of times small businesses, it's just one person, it's just you. And so most of the responsibilities are gonna land on you as the owner. So if you don't have a bookkeeper, if you choose not to get a bookkeeper, then you're going to have to do your own bank reconciliations. So one of the jobs that you will do is the bank reconciliation, and you really need to know how to do that bank reconciliation. So that's kind of what we're going to look at today.
Yeah. I do have some questions for you that you might want to ask yourself when you're doing bank reconciliations. So first of all, what do you need to reconcile your bank account?
Okay, so obviously you need bank statements. First of all, you probably need a bank account. And then you need bank statements for that account. This actually also works for credit cards. So if you have a credit card for the business, then you need you'll need the statements for that credit card. With the bank account, something else that you're going to need, and I think a lot of people miss this step, is that you need the checks. That if you've written any checks in that particular month that you're reconciling, you need to have the checks, or at least know what the checks are for, so that they can be posted to the correct ledger account.
Yeah, that's right. So even if you just have check stubs,
right?
Yeah, that would be necessary, because then you'll know. Because not necessarily all the checks that you've issued will show in your bank. And that's kind of the main purpose of having a bank reconciliation. Exactly.
And lots of the banks will put a copy of the checks on your statement. So sometimes they'll be on there as well. So there's different places that you can find those check stubs.
What software do you need to reconcile your bank account?
Yeah, so again, there's so many different softwares out there that you can use. Here at Always Bookkeeping, we use QuickBooks Online, which we find is very user-friendly. It makes it a lot easier to do it. But really, Yahweh, you don't even need software. You can just use an Excel spreadsheet if you want. Granted, it's a lot more work because you're entering everything manually, but it is possible to use just a simple spreadsheet as well.
How can technology help you reconcile your bank account? Yeah,
so using the software is a good way to do it. Using an Excel spreadsheet, those are all types of technology that can help you. We find that with QuickBooks Online, they have a bank feed. So the bank feed will bring in the information and make it so much easier just to reconcile your account. Just takes away that manual input, saves you a lot of time.
Yeah. And they have a function where it actually teaches you how to do bank reconciliation step by step. So it's probably more common than before, where it actually gives you some the steps on how to do your bank reconciliation, and you can set up bank rules now. So it would automatically accept the transactions, especially for the ones that reoccurring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
why do you use a bank feed?
Yeah, so the main reason I think is the accuracy. It pulls directly from your bank, and so it's going to bring in all of the transactions that have occurred in a certain period of time. Again, it's going to save you time because you're not having to enter everything manually. It's already there for you. You just have to match it with the what's in your software.
Yeah. How accurate is a bank feed?
Yeah, we've found that on QuickBooks Online, the bank feed is pretty accurate. You have to still watch and see what's being entered, and you have to compare it to your statement that you have. We find too that a lot of times it'll just put the same transaction into the same ledger if you don't check it. So for an example, if it's for your bank, so it could be a loan. Maybe you've paid a bank loan back in that one. And then the next one is for the bank again, but it's bank fees. Well, that bank fees may just go to the loan account as well. It'll go to whatever the last one was, unless you've set it up so that it
automatically recognize
exactly
a certain amount. Or
exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can play around with it.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. So it may take a little bit more time to get it set up in the beginning, but once you have it set up and going the way you want it to, you have the rules set up and you get a little more comfortable with it, it's so much easier to use.
What information is entered into your bank reconciliation?
Yeah, so when you do a bank reconciliation, the main things that you're going to need is you're going to need to make sure that your beginning balance is the same as the ending balance from your previous statement. If that's not correct, you need to go back and figure out why. You're going to have to go back and re-reconcile the previous month or months to get that so that it's accurate, because you don't want to start reconciling your bank account if the beginning balance doesn't even match. So then after that, you're going to have the date of your statement and you're going to have the ending balance of that statement. So those are the three main things that go into the bank reconciliation, and then you need, of course, your transactions from that period that you're reconciling.
What does your reconciliation report show you?
Yeah, so the reconciliation report, once you've finished reconciling, it should show you the beginning balance. Then it shows you what transactions have been cleared. So it's going to show you the transactions that you've paid out of your bank, as well as any deposits that have come in. So it'll show you all of those that have actually cleared the bank. And then it's also going to show you your ending balance. And then it's going to show you if there's any outstanding or uncleared transactions. And it's also going to show you a registered balance.
How long should uncleared transactions show on your reconciliation report?
So a little bit different between bank statements and credit card statements. With a credit card statement, it shouldn't show more than a couple of days. If it's showing up, if your uncleared transactions are showing up each month that you reconcile, then there's probably something wrong. Because a credit card, usually it only takes a day or two for it to clear the bank. With a bank statement, same thing. Anything that comes in, any deposits, it shouldn't take more than a couple of days for it to show up in your bank. Any transactions that are going out of your bank, if they're direct debit or you did it like a POS purchase or something, again, they should just be a couple of days. Sometimes a check, you've written somebody a check and they just haven't deposited it yet. Those can stay on your account for a little while as uncleared deposit or transactions. I think it's 6 months, right? When it goes stale dated.
Yeah, I think so.
Months?
I think it's about 6 months. Yeah.
Right. So if it's getting close to that 6 month mark, you should probably contact that person and just see if they've maybe they've lost the check or they just forgot that they had it, whatever it is. I think we find too that a lot of times if there's uncleared transactions that are just not getting deposited or coming out of your bank, chances are it's a duplicate, and you just need to go back and find out where that is and just delete that or Sometimes it's a date is wrong, whatever. So really important when you do your reconciliation to go and check those uncleared balances and just find out what exactly they are. And oh, sorry.
No. So especially with credit card statements, there shouldn't be a lot of unclear transactions in your credit card statements, just because the only thing that should hang out in your unclear transactions is the transactions that are waiting to clear because they just haven't been shown in your bank account, but you've actually entered it in the correct date. So there shouldn't be anything that should hang out in your unclear transactions in your credit card statements, as opposed to bank statements where you've issued checks. Yeah, so you always have to look at the reasonability of the transactions in the uncleared transactions section of your bank reconciliation, because most of the time the things that are in there are made from error and not necessarily transactions that you're waiting to clear.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do I do with these uncleared transactions?
Yeah, and I think we kind of talked about that a little bit. So we just kind of have to go and look at them and see, are they actual transactions that we're waiting for them to clear the bank? Again, maybe the date that you're doing the reconciliation, it's just missed the cutoff, like the transaction is going to happen at the next time you reconcile. Those can just stay there. It's those transactions that have been uncleared for month after month after month that you have to go in and check and see, like, is this a legitimate transaction? Did I make a duplicate transaction? Or has somebody not deposited a check that I've given to them?
Yeah.
Yep.
How can I know that my bank reconciliation is correct?
Yeah, so once you've done your bank reconciliation, you're going to look at your reconciliation report. You're going to see the ending balance. So you want that ending balance to match what's on your statement. So once that is correct, then the other thing you want to look at is your registered balance. Your registered balance should match the GL for your bank in your balance sheet. So if those two things match, then you know that you've done your reconciliation correctly. We also recommend, when you're going to start reconciling another account, another month on that same account, that you go back and check that your last reconciliation is still correct. Because sometimes during the month or whatever, somebody may have made a change to that, and so then your registered balance might be out. So then you just have to go and re-reconcile that month to make sure that you're right. Because it's much easier to do it for 1 month than to do it for 6 months or 12 months at year end.
Yeah, and most of the softwares are smart now that they'll be able to tell you what was adjusted or what's the change that caused the bank to be unreconciled or the beginning balance to be wrong, right?
That's right.
So so if you're using something like that, then it would have been easier. But for some of us who doesn't have a software that is not able to do that, it's a little bit more challenging. Right. And you might have to go a couple months or even further to find out what the error was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
So I think that's all the questions we have, right?
Great.
Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Please hit like and subscribe, and please feel free to give us some questions if you have any, and we'll see you on our next episode.